We have the first section of two, the men's 5,000 meter event.
This is the unseeded section, if you will, the undercard race to the New Balance featured event. So there are 15 men on the start list.
Still with very impressive times, has to be said.
Yes, very impressive times nonetheless. Run through their names right now. From Tracksmith, we have Ryuji Mano. From Weymouth, Christian Baker. Joey Ambury is running unattached. Edward Katz from HFC Striders. Carson Riley unattached. Nicholas Becher from Greater Boston. Justin Maloney from the BAA. Robert Lamar from Greater Boston. Blake White from Greater Boston. Neil Gerton from Greater Boston. Nat Larson from Greater Springfield. Jeremy Canfield running unattached. Corey Hebert unattached. And Luke Walsh for Thompson Training.
So what's the times looking like? What's the field spread here we should expect, Greg?
Yeah, the seed times run from 16:13 for our top seed, who is Ryuji Mano, all the way down to 17:30 for Luke Walsh.
Yeah, so not only between a minute over 5K, so not a huge field spread. So I would expect to see a pack or two develop.
Yeah, and there's a good chunk of guys seated right at 16:30 or just above or below. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress over this 5,000 meter race.
Also just goes to show how fast Holly ran that last 5K.
That's true, yeah. 16:04 was the winning time from Holly Reese. That is flying down the track.
Definitely faster than I can run right now.
We'll see if any of these men can come close to that here in this heat.
So who's that in the white cap leading right now, Greg?
I'll let you know as soon as I can see his right hip. Looks like a Tracksmith jersey. It looks like the number on his chest is 7. That would be
number 2, actually. Christian Baker.
Number 2, Christian Baker, followed by Joey Ambury.
So you don't see that in sprinting events. We have our leader running with a hat on. Have you ever run a track race with a hat on?
Don't think I've ever run a track race with a hat on. I think it's, I don't know, maybe a bit of a controversial style choice, but especially you've seen some runners wear a hat on the indoor track. At that point, it's just an accessory. It's not really doing anything for you, but you know, there's maybe a little rain in the air right now.
Yeah.
That could help.
And a correction, it's
shield that from
Ryuji Mano leading. Ryuji Mano in the lead from Tracksmith. So just a small correction there.
He's the first one on the list, but he's wearing hip number 2.
For some reason.
We should have known. The
It's a little
Tracksmith
confusing.
jersey says it all.
Yeah. He might have to do some work on his own here. The second pack is there, but seems like he's already building a little bit of a gap up.
Yep, and Greater Boston is moving up now. That is Blake White, Nicholas Becher, and Robert Lamar going past Joey Ambury. But Mano out to the early lead, starting to build a bit of a gap on the field. I think the Greater Boston guys do not quite want to let him go. It seems like they're working a bit to at least keep this gap from getting any bigger.
Yeah, trying to work together to close it down a little bit. But I do think working together in this type of race does help for sure. It's actually starting to lighten up a little bit, even as we get later in the day here. The sun looks like it just wants to peek through now.
Yeah, some sunshine would be great to bless the final event of Twilight Meet 4. It's been a great afternoon here at Bentley.
A trio of Greater Boston Track Club athletes, second, third, fourth.
Mono continues to lead.
But you know, if you're in that second pack, you know, you're still feeling okay. It probably feels mentally a little easier to work together with your teammates there, right, Greg?
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have teammates in the race. You know, I would assume these guys from Greater Boston train together, do their workouts together, and so they know exactly how well they can run.
1,600 meters for Mono.
They can stick together, they can work together and build confidence off each other throughout the race. But they've just gone through 1 mile, 4 laps into this 5K. I'd say hopefully everyone is feeling pretty good at this point. Like if you're already starting to hurt 1 mile into a 5K, then you probably have gone out too fast or something else is wrong.
Yeah, see, I always hurt 1 mile into a 5K, but I think that's just because I was never very good at the 5K.
I guess that it depends on your training, your specialty, your fitness. Some people can really ride that line for a long time and get themselves to hurt early and push through it.
Yeah, it's all about finding that sweet spot, right?
Exactly. That's really what the 5K is all about. A lot of these runners are running close to their VO2 max pace, which is a very hard, all-out aerobic effort. Gets you really tired and it hurts, and it's hard to find that line where you can keep going for the whole race and not cross it and pay the price later.
Yeah, second chase pack, you know, has fallen back a little bit, but still, you know, within a 5-second gap, I'd say, and they're still looking all together relaxed. So.
Yeah, it looks like maybe the Greater Boston trio has been trading off the lead, with Robert Lamar now out in front of.
And that, you know, that does bode well for them if they hope to make a move on Ryuji maybe in the second half of this race. They might not be able to, but you know, it's better to try than not to not try, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. So Ryuji Mano has extended his lead to, I would say, 30 meters or so at this point. 5 or 6 seconds back to that second group. Everyone looks pretty comfortable at this point. It's still early, 6 laps into the race.
6-second gap remains constant.
Basically at the halfway point as they come around this bend. They'll be at 2,500 meters. 8:03 from our announcer at halfway, so just over 16-minute pace, but could see a faster close, maybe break that 16-minute barrier, a big barrier for many athletes to try and get under in the 5K.
What are your thoughts on what type of spikes or kind of racing shoes to wear on these track 5 and 10Ks?
That's a good question. At this level, you see a lot of athletes wearing so-called super shoes like Alpha Fly, Next Percent, and the New Balance RC Elite, of course, the best super shoe in the business. Those are those marathon road racing flats that have gotten very popular. They're actually not permitted in track events under the World Athletic Standard, but of course, everyone here today is not trying to qualify for a world championship or something like that. So
not everyone, but you know, a couple people.
I think your PR still counts on the track if you're wearing super shoes.
So, but would I understand the super shoes, you know, have an advantage on maybe road races, and you know, they give you more of the bounce back on a harder surface like asphalt. But do they, when you can dig into a track with, you know, the way spikes do, are those not a little better? You know, they're a little bit lighter, or is the bounce back that you get from those super shoes on these longer events really that beneficial?
I think it comes down to personal preference. Definitely the grip of the spikes on the track is a feeling that a lot of people like, and they're not going to give that up, especially if they're used to racing in spikes throughout high school, college, and their entire life. I think there's also evidence to suggest that the benefit of super shoes, especially over track spikes, and some of the track spikes have the same foam as the super shoes, but the benefit in a race is not as much compared to the benefit of training in the shoes and having that extra recovery and being able to train a bit harder because you're being aided by the technology. So
that's interesting because, you know, especially for spikes, you know, it's actually been told by a lot of coaches for most of our lives that, like, you really don't need to train in spikes because it doesn't make a difference in how you train, you know, unless maybe you're really trying to sprint once in a while just to test it. But you're saying that the super shoes do make a difference in training for these workouts, maybe not for like average runs, but getting in those workouts and those shoes can make a difference when it comes to race day.
Yeah, I think the past couple of years since the start of the COVID pandemic, really across the board at all levels of the sport, people are running faster than ever before, and everyone blames the shoes, but it's not just the shoes on their own, it's what people are able to do in the shoes, and I think for a lot of people they're able to train harder, come back from workouts faster, and build up their base more than they have been able to in the past.
Yeah, and one of the criticisms of these shoes is that they have like a kind of limited mileage amount before maybe the special effects of these shoes kind of dissipate. But it's been a couple of years. Have they improved? Can you get it to last more like a normal shoe, or is that pretty limited and you have to switch out pretty quickly? Because that can become a pretty prohibitive in cost pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I have heard they last maybe 100 miles or 100 miles, which is less than you'd get on a regular trainer. I'm sure some people wear them longer than that, but it's always funny to see, some guy out on the Charles in Vaporflies just going for a walk or something.
It's like, no, put him down.
Yeah.
You know not what you wear.
Anyways.
Back to the race. Ryuji Mano still with the lead, but the Greater Boston guys are still right there. The gap, since the initial gap formed, two of the Greater Boston guys haven't really lost that much ground. They're about 55 meters back from Ryuji with just a couple laps to go, 2 laps to go, 800. So if they can make a strong move, they can test Ryuji a little bit and, see how much he's saved up. But, overcoming a, 10-second gap is not easy.
Yeah, unfortunately it looks like Robert Lamar has dropped off his pack a little bit, but Blake White and Nicholas Bashir are still going strong, chasing Mano.
Yeah, and he just did a little look back, and I don't know if he's happy or not, it's hard to tell from this distance with his lead. But it's certainly not an impenetrable lead, but it is a lead that if he can just stay relaxed, just keep his stride up, he should be able to win this heat.
Yeah.
I think this is in a gap where you will out-sprint him. It's a gap that, you know, Ryuji would have to give up himself, partially.
Yeah, I think if he can maintain his pace,
one more lap.
For
500 to go.
500 meters, then he's got the win. But you know, you look at this gap. It's maybe 50 meters at this point.
Yeah, it's closed a little bit. I would say they've made up about a second and a half that last lap, maybe 2 seconds now. They're really starting to kick in. But I would say that, you know, a 40-meter gap is still pretty safe with 1 lap to go. It looks like Bashir has made a stronger move and is closing.
He's really taken off and
trying to make that move for the win.
He looks like he's going to catch Mono out there.
It looks like he might catch him, but then the question is, can Mono make a response? And it's a long way. He started the sprint from about 450 meters out. That's a long way to go. And he might pull up himself a little bit. But this gap has come down from 55 meters to just 8. Now just 5. Now just 3. Now just 1. Now Bashir goes by him. What a sprint. You know, the ultimate announcer's jinx, as Bashir has pulled off an incredible sprint here. You know, he sat back all race. Started all race and now will win it by a comfortable margin. This is some sprint at the end. I would love to see what this split is for this final 400, as he wins by a good 15-20 meters over Ryuji Mano, who led for 47.50 of a 5,000. But that is not enough. You have to make it to the end. Isn't that right, Greg?
Yeah. Mano probably thought he had the race won, maybe even from the beginning when he took the lead.
He might have thought also he did a little look behind with about 700 to go, and saw that there was a 50-meter gap, and you know, at that point the Greater Boston guys had not started to kick, so he probably felt that he was pretty safe. But you know, what a kick at the, he started just before the final lap with about 450 to go. And it was a very strong kick, and it really only got stronger as he came into 200 and made the move for the lead. He kicked even harder, and Ryuji just was not able to make that same acceleration, and he ultimately fell off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as they were headed into the final straight, you know, if the lead is 50 or 60 meters, it looks just like an impossible distance to make up. But,
yes.
But if you can kick, 7-8 seconds faster in at the end, you can make that up. Ooh, Ari has pulled some shoes out of a box. Some fresh-looking New Balance Fuel Cell Rebels. Great shoes from New Balance. Best in the business.
There's some creamsicles.